Hi there, this is John Drew here from Elevated Planet.
And Jolé Gabrielle here from Elevated Planet. And we'd like to welcome you to today's show where we have a lot in store for you. And John is here to tell us more about it.
Yes, it is time to reach for the cranial retention helmet today because we're going to be blowing a few minds today and we do not want to have to clear up the mess. So it's going to be, yeah, I mean, honestly, you think about human history the way we understand it, whichever way you look at it, whether you look at the Darwin's theory of evolution or traditional church versions or whatever. What we're going to present to you today is a very, very different version, and we're only kind of scratching the surface of it, but it actually provides a bit of food for thought. So yeah, that's where we're heading, and of course we're going back to Barbara Hand Clow as well for the sequel of Alchemy of Nine Dimensions that she has recently written. So we're covering off some of that as well, a little bit of Steven Greer, and before that we have a bit of Stefan Burns, who is our space weatherman, with a bit of an update. So I'm thinking that's what we're going to do. We're going to dive straight in and listen to a little bit of what Stefan has got to tell us. And that only takes a minute, but it gives us a little bit of food for thought and helps us to lead into to the broader presentation as well. So bear with me a second and we will do that.
Space Weatherman Stefan Burns here with a solar activity alert because there are multiple large-scale disturbances that have taken place today on the sun. Some of them just recent, like this solar plasma filament that destabilized and this prominence eruption, in addition to a coronal mass ejection, that have all launched out into interplanetary space. They're going to enhance the solar wind. It's very likely that they actually catch up to the coronal mass ejection that is already headed our way that was launched on the 12th. All of them combining into a massive plasma blob that will sweep by and impact Earth on December 17th. So this is looking like a significant effect. Each of them on their own wouldn't be that big of a deal, but combined they could give Earth quite a rattle and perhaps will have a significant geomagnetic storm as a result. It at least is a high probability event based on my analysis of the situation.
There we have a quick analysis there from Stefan, and that was he only recorded that a few hours ago as well. So that is hot off the press, and he's talking about 2 days' time, where we may well be getting this big blob of plasma and radiation and solar ejection. So it's time to reach for the blob umbrella out and the plasma umbrella and get yourself ready because this is going to be an exciting one by the sound of it. Maybe all about the 17th. So what's that? That is going to be Tuesday. So let's see if we get anything going on there. Now, what makes this particularly interesting is part of the conversation with Barbara Hand Clow covers this to an extent within the presentation itself, where we're talking about global warming and the impact that the sun is having, because of the cycle as it is at the moment with solar maximum, and the Earth is being very energized right now, which does leave it more vulnerable to, as we know, earthquakes and volcanoes and the likes. The tectonic plates can pull and push a little bit more than is typical. So it's certainly worth watching these things. And if you get any X-class flares getting emitted and the likes of Stefan will keep us in touch with that. So that's it really, other than going pretty much back into our good friend Barbara. Now, just to reiterate for those who were not here last week, Barbara Hand Clow, she's been doing this stuff for many decades. And even from the age of 3, she was being schooled by her grandfather, who was of Cherokee origin, but also with Celtic blood as well. So there was a little bit of Irish in there. So a little bit of that sort of pagan Irish there, as well as Cherokee. So that was quite a combination. But he passed on his wisdom of the indigenous folks through to Barbara at a very young age. And he really focused all his energy on it. And it just shows. He knew she's here for a very special reason. I mean, I think she's 81 now. And this is the 20th anniversary of her book, Alchemy of Nine Dimensions. And it is a brilliant book. And this rewritten version, which is also on Audible, is quite very powerful, actually. It gives us a huge opportunity to realize just how much more there is to us as humanity than we have been conditioned and programmed to believe. So the good news is that what this is doing is preparing us. It's preparing us for this age of Aquarius, this age of the golden race, because it's when we step back into our power, when we get away from the global elite, if we want to call them that, because there's a few names for them, but that have been trying their best to keep us small. This can't work anymore because we are shifting. The planet is shifting. This is way bigger than any agenda that they may have on the darker side to keep us down. Now, it may get a little bit chaotic in the meantime, but as long as we know that we can climb on our eagle's perch and realize that everything is exactly as it is supposed to be, then we're in a good place. So before I do that, Jolé, what would you care to add before we go back to Barbara?
I just wanted to reiterate, just staying on your eagle's perch, and really trying to let go of the fear, because that's what it's meant to do. Because what does fear do? It takes you into fight, flight, or freeze, which then you can't move, right? You can't do anything. So don't allow for that to stop you. Please look towards your future, in the present moment, but realize that you have more control than you think.
Yes, exactly. And the practices that you give us, Jolé, I think they really do set us up for that. And I do think that once you get your head around what's happening here, it's less about going into fear and more about going into the excitement of what's going to come.
Yes.
So I think that's where we're heading. We're heading into the excitement, and understanding what's going on is really going to give us a great situation as to how to handle this.
Yes, and Barbara is really here to help us do that. She really has a lot of knowledge and wisdom to impart to us.
Indeed, and to open our minds today, that is one of the things. And so get ready with your cranial retention helmets. Here we go. We're going to get started.
So the ancient Egyptians were a Syrian culture, and Sirius is the keeper of the sixth dimension. We can see from their creations, like the Great Pyramid or the temples, that they either were here or came here in order to build different sacred sites that would hold the sixth dimension in the third dimension. Well, when we do yoga or Tai Chi, or sacred dance, when we do any kind of geometrical activation of ourselves, what happens is we're accessing our sixth dimensional structure. When I was teaching in Egypt, I always taught with a teacher named Hakim. He's no longer with us. And so he took me into the, it's at Saqqara in Egypt. And he asked me to tell him what the hieroglyphs said. So I started just explaining this is what they say. And it doesn't fit with the way the archaeologists explain them. But I could obviously read the message that was in the hieroglyphics. And so Hakim finally said, you know this language. And it's only because that sixth dimensional consciousness is so strong in me. And then, Emilio, the other thing I would like to say about Egypt, and I'm sure that you noticed this, is the ancient field of nine-dimensional consciousness still exists in Egypt. And I loved going there whenever I could go there. Do you notice that feeling, how good that felt? Because those geometrical temples and pyramids that they built in Egypt are still holding the multidimensional form in place. And so what used to happen to me as a teacher when I was there was whenever I would go into the temples and teach students, indigenous Egyptians would come up and reach for me, or they would give me something sacred, because they could tell that I could feel that feeling. And people, I've got a bunch of people who still go. I keep checking with them. Nobody's ever told me the energy's gone away. It's there in Egypt. And that's because Egypt is a central geodetic point on this planet. It's really the center of the Earth alignment to the cosmos.
Okay, so we have the first breakpoint here, and you may want to ensure that your cranial retention helmets are firmly attached, because this is going to be mind-blowing. Now, the one thing that really drew me to this section was the mention of Hakim, who was Barbara's guide to the ancient sites of Egypt, because I was already familiar with Hakim, but from a different source. So, also known as Abel Hakim Awayan, he was pretty high up in the Egyptian government and a true academic of the ancient sites. He translated not just hieroglyphs, but also the ancient Greek, demotic symbols, Coptic, ancient Arabic, hieratic writing, and more. So he helped the author of this book, Anne Walker, to translate various writings and symbols that she was given for the Egyptian part of her research. Anne was a housewife from London who channeled a Native American Indian, a former incarnation of Jesus Christ. So fantastical, huh? Anyway, Anne was not particularly well educated, but she was a psychic medium who built into those abilities in her mid-30s. Anyway, through channeling White Arrow, which was the name of the Native American Indian, Anne produced a variety of reports and papers that ultimately went to all the major governments, including the Pentagon, NASA, United Nations, and many others. Copies of the reports and correspondence can all be found in the book, The Messenger, the Messiah. This even included complex scientific formulas to remove pollution from fuel, and these came from a channeled Einstein. One of the reports on plate tectonics suggested that the Earth's core was 2,700 kilometers wide, and this was in the early 1990s and was then verified by scientists following an earthquake deep under Bolivia in 1994. It measured 8.3 on the Richter scale, but it was nearly 400 miles below the Earth's surface. But because of the instrumentation that had been established on both sides of the globe, it enabled scientists to establish for the first time the size and composition of the inner core of the Earth. And it completely matched with Anne's plate tectonic diagram, which you got to say is not bad for an uneducated London housewife. So, what the stone of the plough ultimately revealed there was that buried deep beneath the Sphinx and the Giza pyramids is a spacecraft that was known as the Stone of the Plough. Now that we've established Hakim's credentials and credibility, I'm going to read you a passage that was written by Hakim when he wrote to Anne Walker in 1994, clarifying the situation. Here we go. Hakim sent a fax to explain what the Hall of Records was. These stories had been passed down over the centuries amongst the tribal people. It confirmed what White Arrow had said and more. These are his words. I have chosen certain subjects of the Giza area on the Hall of Records. This first light matrix pyramid contains records concerning humanity's pre-Earth existence, its arrival on the planet, and its initial experiences within the physical world. It also contains the Merkaba light vehicle used by the intelligences of Malona, the planet that once existed between Mars and Jupiter, that was destroyed about 17 million years ago and is now the asteroid belt. A number of its citizens escaped to Earth in the Merkaba and became humanity's earliest teachers. Records from the planet's history and accomplishments are also found within the pyramid. So at that point, Hakim goes on to explain various things that had happened going from 50,000 years BC, including how various spiritual masters from Atlantis who were escaping the growing material corruption of their civilizations came to Egypt as culture bearers and raised the standards of its people to the status of a civilization in its own right. So there you go. That's something that truly boggles the mind. So I thought I'd throw that in there for starters. This next section, we're going to go over to Transylvania, and there is a link between these things. And so we'll come back to that shortly. Thank you.
And to go even more ancient, let's say, are we beginning to uncover time machines that were left by our ancient elders and ancestors?
Yeah. Well, what you're alluding to is the Paleolithic cycle. And the last cycle of the Paleolithic culture on this planet, it's basically 100,000 years. And so the high point of the Paleolithic era is 50,000 years ago. And what's happening right now, there's a massive uncovering and discovery of sacred sites and tunnels and rooms underground, time machines and all that, that is basically centered in Romania, in Transylvania. And so for readers, for listeners who are interested in the subject, should definitely consider reading a book called Transylvania Sunrise by Radu Cinema and Peter Moon. So what I did in Alchemy of Nine Dimensions was I covered some things going on the planet that actually proved the accuracy of theory in Alchemy of Nine Dimensions. And so I covered the Romanian material and some of the Egyptian material. And this is another sign of the awakening. It's like as we let go of our blocks and our dark shadows and our confusions and our pain, as we let go of those things, it's harder and harder for the global elite to cover up these discoveries. And so they're just breaking out all over the place, which it's like a rout going on at this point. They can't cover things up anymore.
Okay, so here we go. This may be the greatest archaeological discovery of all time. And I'm simply going to list what's been discovered in the mountains of Transylvania. So you better ensure that the chin strap of your cranial retention helmet is securely fastened. A series of tunnels have been constructed by beings believed to be around 9 feet tall. The tunnels are lined with gold. There is a tunnel that comes out in the Giza Plateau, hence the link to the pyramids from the first section. There is a tunnel that emerges in Tibet. There is a tunnel that descends into the inner earth. There are large underground technological rooms connected to these tunnels, including an advanced time-traveling machine that is operated through consciousness. The time machine is believed to be 50,000 years old. The consciousness side of things means that this time machine is not usable by typical 3D human beings. Cesar Brad, the Romanian, is not a typical 3D human. He is so much more. He has figured out how to operate the time machine and taught Radu Cinema how to use it. Radu has used the time machine to travel back as far as 500,000 years. The nature of this time machine is all about holographic projection, so I'm guessing this projects the images from the past. The room in which it is based is known simply as the projection room. This was all discovered 30 years ago, and the American military have been working with the Romanians since 2003. The Americans want to maintain absolute secrecy, but Cesar Brad believes the world should know, hence the books, of which Transylvania Sunrise is just one. Radu Cinema writes under the strict instructions of Cesar Brad. What has emerged will completely rewrite human history. The Americans, interestingly, have also discovered similar technology under Baghdad, Iraq, hence their desire to both learn how to use it and to invade Iraq. So it wasn't just simply about the oil. Similar findings to all this, of course, exist in Antarctica, and there is a lot more that we will learn about that as the veil of secrecy is finally lifted. Cesar and Radu's books have in turn been researched by Peter Moon, who was co-author with Preston Nichols on The Music of Time and the Montauk Project. Amongst many other things, this work with Preston Nichols explains the mind control and time travel aspect. The mainstream media have been forbidden to cover any of these topics, once again underlining how controlled and brainwashed westernized civilization is. As ever, I don't ask you to accept any of this at face value. I encourage you to research it for yourself and see where it leads you. It was in fact Jolé that first introduced me to the work of Preston Nichols and Peter Moon maybe 3 years ago. And interestingly, Preston Nichols has gone through a very thorough character assassination by authorities to destroy his credibility. But I would encourage you to read the books and judge the science for yourselves, because it's actually very compelling. Anyway, Jolé, what would you care to add?
I'm really interested in reading about this Transylvania Sunrise, and I would also like to lay on the table Preston Nichols and his book, The Music of Time, which will help tie all of this stuff in, because we think time travel, wow, it's all the way out there. But let's remember some of our ancients, like Paramahansa Yogananda talks about transubstantiation, or being able to move through the ether. So these things are there and they're out there for us to reach for. It's just like she said, let's let go of some of this dark energy, learn about ourselves and who we are, so that we can definitely up level and have access to some of these discoveries that are being hidden.
We just had our second congressional hearing about UFOs and UAPs with eyewitness accounts on this progress toward deeper disclosure about what's really going on, with us being connected with the galactic races as well. Where do you see that also progressing in the next coming years, leading up to this big convergence point in 2027 that you alluded to in the beginning?
Yeah, this is a hard one to deal with. I'm very, very careful with this one, because the global elite may try to pull some kind of mass landing event that'll divert people from where they're actually going. Like we could see a great big landing of spaceships in Jerusalem, so that then you could say you got to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem, or whatever, Washington, D.C., whatever they're going to call.
So they've had these advanced platforms that fly, anti-gravs, since the mid and late 50s, and they have been used in psychological warfare exercises trying to create this false alien threat narrative. And that means that they've collected an enormous portfolio of cases that they've created that look alien, that they can put in front of the National Security Council, the Congress, and whistleblowers like Mr. Grush, who haven't gone in deeply enough on this issue to know what is real and what has been faked. So I think this is where we have to be very, very careful.
Okay, so just a very brief interlude here. Now, this global elite may try to stage a big landing kind of idea, and what Dr. Greer has said as well. And again, all his documentaries, including this latest one, are highly recommended to discover the truth of what this is really all about. So what I'm interested in really is all these sightings in recent times of these drones. And are they alien and all the rest of it? And of course, I know a lot of people are already aware of this, but they are not. They are not alien craft at all. They are military hardware, and they are always around US military bases. So it could quite simply be as innocent as the US military trying out their devices without the intention of being seen, but being seen regardless, okay? The other thought is that it could be an agenda to start to raise fear in people's minds that there is an alien invasion, which then will be followed up with these ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles, that would stage this potential mass landing of aliens, which will then hand over control to the global elite again, which is the entire plan. So that's one to watch for. If the fear agenda continues to rise within the mainstream media, and this is always interesting, okay, because the mainstream media are often not allowed to report these things. The mere fact that they're being encouraged to do so kind of suggests that there could be a darker agenda behind this. So if you haven't heard it before, you've heard it here first. Elevated Planet telling you these are not off planet, these are on planet. The anti-gravitational devices have been around since 1956, when they had first mastered anti-gravity as a reverse engineering of the downed ET spacecraft that had taken place in the decades before. So this is not new technology, this is ancient technology, and they may be drones, they may be unmanned, but this stuff is out there. So do not be fooled, climb on your eagle's perch and see through the agenda, if there is one.
So I think it's very, very important to realize that extraterrestrials often are not really like us 3D humans. They have some characteristics and some similarities, but they're mostly existing in very high dimensions, and they're not physical. And so what we see down here is we see manifestations of them, partly because our consciousness is partly more open. But I think it's also important to recognize that all of us have lots of extraterrestrial characteristics. And as our dimensionality opens up, then, for instance, in my case, I relate strongly to the fifth dimension, and I'm very Pleiadian, and I'm very comfortable with that because I'm an indigenous person and I was taught that I came from the Pleiades. So it doesn't bother me that I'm partly Pleiadian. But I'm probably also partly Andromedan, I'm partly Sirian, I don't really know. And I think those things are waking up in us now.
Okay, so this is really interesting, but the way that I have learned this to be, the DNA/genetic structure of this particular human vehicle is a hybrid of many different galactic species to create this particular version of the humanoid species. This has also been seen, apparently, as part of the time travel by Radu Cinema over in the mountains of Transylvania. I'm going to continue to research that once the book arrives, and I'm going to report back on that in the new year. Anyway, this is not to be feared. This DNA mix is to be celebrated. The issue we've had is that we've been dumbed down by the global elite for thousands of years following the cataclysms that ended the Atlantis civilization. But this is not something to get angry about, because that will sink us back into the denser energies of duality, whereas we are heading for high frequency unity consciousness of this new Aquarian era. And that is set to end the control agenda and allow us to create our world of unspeakable beauty. So as far as our galactic cousins are concerned, we are them and they are us. They're here to help us with the transition to higher consciousness of joy, love, community, and compassion. So it is truly time to get excited.
You said that you freely admit that you feel some part of you exists in the Pleiades while also lives here on Earth, and that this other life enhances your earthly databank. What does it mean for people to be living these, I guess, maybe parallel lives in one star system and then also be a human here on Earth? I've heard it from many other people, so I would love to get a clear, synthesis around why that's occurring and how we can deal with that.
Yeah, well, this is a great example of how far we've come. I was born in Saginaw, Michigan, and when I was in the first grade, the teacher sat up at her desk and told all the kids in the room, have us tell her where we came from. Okay, so everybody, some people came from Florida, some people came from southern Michigan or whatever. And then when it got to me, I came from the Pleiades. And that's when I learned to keep my mouth shut, because that's when, so there's a whole lot of people who actually do know that they come from some other place as well as being here. And then what does that mean psychologically? Well, I finally come to the conclusion that my Pleiadian self that seems to exist on Alcyon, which is the center star of the Pleiades, I think it's my higher self. And I think the Pleiadians, first of all, we know they're much more advanced than we are. If we go to Alcyon, the Pleiadians and the teachers from the whole Pleiadian star system definitely either visited Earth psychically or they visited Earth physically, because the Paleolithic period on this planet has symbols and stories and information about Pleiadians just all over the planet. So that's the system that seemed to have influenced us the most during the Paleolithic movement. So it would make sense to me that if that system is more advanced and is wiser and more developed than somebody like me is, well, then if I listen to my higher self, I have a better sense of what to do and what to teach.
Regarding the Pleiadians, why do we sometimes refer to Alcyon as a library as well?
First of all, it's the largest star, and it's the star that emits the most energy in the Pleiadian star system. So it makes sense to me that a lot of the records in the library would be there. And other people say the same thing.
And in the Milky Way, would the sun be the equivalent of that library for our galaxy?
Well, certainly the sun is the library in our system, in our solar system, if that's what you mean. Because there we have all the information, all the planetary information, all the asteroid information. And so as people develop as astrologers and become more conscious of astrology, they start realizing they have all this information deep inside. And that's coming from our solar sense of self and our sense of the information in all the different planets in our reality.
She spoke about how all information is deep inside. And if you've been listening to this show, you know I've been telling you that everything is inside of you to go within and to listen to that higher self. And she also said that. And by listening to your higher self and really going inside for that information, what it does is it brings you closer to your intuition, and it opens you up as a channel to hear the voices of the divine and your higher self guiding you. So work with your higher self and dig inside. Ask questions so that that spirit within you can answer, but ask those questions from a place of positive energy, meaning moving forward with love and with the things which are going to allow for you to grow as well as your environment.
Wonderful. Okay, Jolé, thank you very much. And back to the show.
Regarding more about what's happening on Earth in relation to the sun, why are we beginning to see these upsurges of solar flares and solar storms on the planet right now?
Well, the solar flares, of course, in the solar cycle affects the whole solar system. So all the planets are being very, very affected by the sun, as well as Earth now. And this is just simply a part of the way our system functions by means of precession. So we're at a major high point of energy development on this in the solar system from the sun. And by the way, it's not necessarily easy. Like, for example, we've been told that the reason the planet is heating up is because of excess carbon in the atmosphere being created by humans. And certainly that's part of it, the story. But a lot of the reason our planet is heating up is, first of all, because of the solar flare cycle. This is a very active, intense cycle. And so there's a tremendous heating going on in the solar system itself. But in Earth in particular, we have another thing going on that people are going to have to start paying attention to, which is we're filling the ionosphere, that's Earth's upper atmosphere, we're filling the ionosphere with satellites. And in some cases, in different layers of the ionosphere, that is also heating up planet. We've got to be very careful in believing some of these theories that we see coming from the government about why we're experiencing global warming. And so to put it simply, Emilio, we are in a catastrophic cycle. That we're at the end of the Kali Yuga, which is a teaching from India, that teaching goes back to the previous cataclysm. And so we are in that cycle, but the Pleiadians have told me consistently that the previous cataclysm that traumatized us so much was a physical cataclysm. But now we're living in the middle of an emotional cataclysm. And from what I can see going on with people, I think emotions are harder to handle than physical cataclysms. So I don't want to say it's going to be any easier, but I don't see any reason to be fearful because we're simply going through a cyclical passage. Although I will admit I'm pretty fearful of governments who come up with systems like carbon credit, things like that, because we're doing an awful lot of destructive things to this planet right now that are based on theories that are just simply not valid. And so when some guy like Trump says global warming is a hoax, that's what he's referring to. And a lot of people are talking about global warming being a hoax. And since the government has plans in place to spend trillions of dollars to get carbon out of the atmosphere, we all of us really have to do everything we can to expose this truth.
Right, so there you go. The global warming story is an interesting one, right? Because I have to confess that, I'd certainly bought into the global warming agenda to an extent. Now, I always, realize that this is a cyclical event, right? That this goes on. We know that there's been ice ages before. We know there's been extreme heating before. So this is not something new in the cycle of the planet of Earth, right? So So that kind of makes sense. Now, I do think that carbon is part of it, as Barbara herself said as well. But at the same time, I think this is being severely overdone because the more natural cycle is what Stefan tells us about, right? With all the solar flares and the plasma and all the solar ejections and everything that are taking place, which is just a normal part. But this is a new cycle, right? This is happening not just on planet Earth, but across the other planets as well. So it does give you pause for thought. As always with these things, we always encourage people to independently make their mind up, but at the same time, it's kind of just realizing that things are not always what they seem. So, yeah, I think that that is of great importance. And you know what all this comes about in the round, when we look at this in its totality, when we're talking about the pyramids, whether we're talking about Transylvania, and the links to Giza, the links to Tibet, and then you think about what's going on in Baghdad, another time machine there, and we know there's been some weird stuff goes on in Antarctica. In fact, I remember there was a fellow called Admiral Byrd who flew into Antarctica once with other aircraft as well. And he flew into a giant cave. And there's a lot of information out there. Just check it out on YouTube and you'll see about it. And the report he came back was absolutely fantastical, right? I mean, you think about what I've told you here is fantastical. Well, he flew into a crystal city and was greeted by the people of Inner Earth. And I know they still have existed in Inner Earth throughout, okay? And they will come to the surface as we upgrade to the fifth dimension and beyond. This is when they do come back. It was interesting because, again, you will know quite likely if you've been here before that Dolores Cannon is one of my favorite authors because she was the researcher who used quantum healing hypnosis technique to actually take people back into past lives. She uncovered so much about not just about this planet, the inner planet, also the galaxy, and also the nature of consciousness and the human experience. Because this is the thing that I really get from all of this, not just Dolores, but all of these. So, this human vehicle here is just our vehicle for this life. Our consciousness fires this up, and our consciousness never dies. The vehicle will dissipate at some point, but consciousness always goes on. So therefore, we are immortal. So regardless of the type of galactic vehicle that we've chosen for this lifetime, we are all the same at some level, right? Because we all came from the same source. We all go back to the same source. And this is beautiful, unconditional love, joy, all the rest of it. This is what happens when we die. This is the joy of it. This 3D physical vehicle has limitations, or at least perceived limitations, but this limitation is what we are now shedding. So, yeah, that's, I think it's beautiful. I'm just so excited about this. Jolé, what would you care to add?
I agree with you, John. I really feel like this is a time where we can take hold of the things that, it's like a crack. It's like you get to see into what maybe you never thought existed or was there before and take back some of your power. So instead of moving with fear, we want to move with a sense of knowingness, knowing that, this period of time is for us to up level and to really shed, just like we're talking about what Mother Earth is doing, shed some of these, this program, or they don't belong to us. They've been implanted in our mind, and now is the opening and the time for us to let go and shed some of this so we can really step into our well-being, and our highest good.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a very good point, actually, because I did mention about the 3-part toolkit for Christmas from Elevated Planet, which is kind of like part of that. And this is all free of charge. It's straight out the box. But one of those is that 90-second release, right?
Yes.
So when you're feeling those emotions, rather than trying to suppress them and repress them, which I know, speaking as a Brit, we always get told to repress our emotions, don't show them. Yeah. It's not the healthiest of way to live your life. So what you kind of learn is that, say, for instance, if you're going into fear, stress, anxiety, or whatever, you have to, don't repress it, just allow it, and what do you think, Jolé?
Absolutely allow it to move through you. And sometimes it can take 90 seconds, somewhere to 20 minutes. But if you can just sit down and allow for those emotions to move through you, they will move out. Like fear is false evidence appearing real. We know this, right? Or, forget everything and run. But we believe that fear is not, it doesn't exist. It is what you see fear as a demon. It's a demonic energy that is there to keep you from moving forward towards spiritual enlightenment and your highest good. So anytime that fear comes your way, like lunge at it. You know what I mean? It's just do the thing that you fear the most. I raise my hand high with this. I struggle with fear, and I'm learning through consistency to lean into the things that I'm afraid of. And it's moving my life towards, bliss, unspeakable beauty. And I'm so grateful for that. But we also want to remember we have to create a support system, or we benefit by having a support system such as an elevated planet community or whatever that looks like for you, so that when you are working through these strong emotions, you do have that support system that can help you to maintain, that high vibration. Because it is a process, and it does take a village.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely right. And to that point as well, Rua Ball, who is also, does a lot of work with us now on Elevated Planet, God bless her. I mean, she's brilliant. I love what she does as she's been doing the shamanic stuff for many years, but she's just a very wise person. And I love that. And one of the things that, in fact, we're going to be leaning into next, Care of Jolé, is going to be the poem, right? Which is The Silence of the Stars.
Yes.
Which actually came from Rua, because one of the things that she's studied a lot over the years is poetry, as the spiritual side of poetry. She's very, very good with these things. It's amazing how much you learn along the way. So one of the things I know, that as we go towards the guided meditation visualization, it's that we're going to go through these higher dimensional emotions. But the nice thing is about this, right? So where we're heading, we're going to the fifth dimension, right? That's where we're heading. It's part of the change, and it may be a bit of chaos along the way, but you can climb on your eagle's perch and see it for what it is, knowing that there's a world of unspeakable beauty that awaits. So we have that waiting for us. And the fifth dimensional energy, what is it? It's joy, it's love, it's laughter, it's compassion, and it's, you can feel anger within that as well. You can feel, the usual emotions that are heavier, but you don't stay there. It's a fleeting visit and you're back, right? Because you're living in love. You're living in, what is not to look forward to about that?
Right. And anger can be a great motivator, especially for healing. You recognize, you know what, this isn't mine and I don't appreciate it. And you get rid of it and you move more into your own energy. But the one thing about anger you have to be careful about, and I speak from experience because I have inflammation all throughout my body, is holding on to it. Anger is there as fuel. For you to utilize to move your life forward. I don't like this. I want to do something better. Righteous anger is the good anger to have. But holding on to it, being angry at yourself, holding grudges, those are the things that burn your own house down. So be careful about that.
Yes. Yeah, it's a very good point. It's a very good point. And that's the thing. It's a path of self-growth all the time, isn't it? It's kind of understanding ourselves and knowing how to move things through. And you've been a big help to me, Jolé, because, I didn't have the tools and the tricks of the trade, which I've got now.
Yeah. It really is very helpful to know that you have that grounding core, or that portal that's there to help you flush out negative energy. And then you have that crown, which you open and bring in that gold light. And that is a really wonderful way to move out hardcore energy, or energy that's strong and that we talk about emotional, negative, and bring in more positive. And we do that in our meditation. So
yeah,
it's a wonderful gift.
It is indeed. It is indeed that connection to Gaia, Mother Earth, which our physical body is part of, right? And then connection to the heavens as well. And I always feel it. I love that sensation of going into that. It just kind of like elevates your emotions. It's a beautiful thing. So, shall we head towards this last section?
Absolutely. Let's roll.
Right. So just for heads up, we're going to just go back to Barbara, who's just going to run through what those upper dimensional emotions actually are, so we get a good flavor for what that's about. And then Jolé is going to lead us into that little bit of poetry and then into the guided meditation. So here we go. Hang on to your hats, everybody.
Regarding this emotional cataclysm, will we be gaining access to newer emotions down the line?
Yeah, higher dimensional emotions. And so fifth dimensional emotions are bliss and joy. Sixth dimensional emotions are a love of order and geometrical beauty. Seventh dimensional emotions are the ability to hear the music of the spheres and to be acted by the sound in the universe. Eighth dimensional emotions have to do with feeling the divine, and you can call it God, goddess, if you want to. And ninth dimensional emotions have to do with understanding time.
The Silence of the Stars, poem by David Wagoner. When Lawrence Vanderpost one night in the Kalahari Desert told the Bushmen he couldn't hear the stars singing, they didn't believe him. They looked at him half smiling. They examined his face to see whether he was joking or deceiving them. Then two of those small men who plant nothing, who have almost nothing to hunt, who live on almost nothing, and with no one but themselves, led him away from the crackling, thorn-scrub fire and stood with him under the night and listened. One of them whispered, "Do you not hear them now?" And Vanderpost listened, not wanting to disbelieve, but had to answer no. They walked him slowly, like a sick man, to the small, dim circle of firelight and told him they were terribly sorry. And he felt even sorrier for himself and blamed his ancestors for their strange loss of hearing, which was his loss now. On some clear night, when nearby houses have turned off their visions, when the traffic dwindles, when through streets are between sirens and the jets overhead are between crossings, when the wind is hanging fire in the fir trees, and the long-eared owl in the neighboring grove between calls is regarding his own darkness, I look at the stars again as I first did to school myself in the names of constellations and remember my first sense of their terrible distance. I can still hear what I thought at the edge of silence were the inside jokes of my heartbeat, my arterial traffic, the sea above high sea of my inner ear, myself tunelessly humming. But now I know what they are, my fair share of the music of the spheres, and clusters of ripening stars, of the songs from the throats of the old gods still tending ever tone-deaf creatures through their exiles in the desert. Wonderful. Put your feet flat on the floor, your palms face up on your thighs, and begin to breathe with the rhythm of your body. And while you are breathing, command for your heartbeat to sync up with your breath as you begin to ground yourself into Mother Earth from your first chakra by creating, visualizing, and imagining a beautiful grounding cord of a natural earth element that's 6 inches in diameter connected to your first chakra. Feel it as it moves through the crust of Mother Earth's lithosphere, begins traveling at the speed of love through the asthenosphere, rooting itself into the core of Mother Earth and her loving, nurturing life force energy. And once we are grounded, those golden rose-shaped scrubbing bubbles come in, blanketing the inside and the outside of our grounding cord, cleaning off the things, the energy that no longer serve us, that we're ready to let go of and release, while simultaneously our aura layer moves to be 1.5 feet around us, 18 inches above and below, to the right and to the left, and to the front and the back of us, as our higher self begins to stand at a comfortable distance above our head and our crown in the power position, and our astral body snaps itself in, feet in our feet, knees in our knees, hips in our hips, hands in our hands, elbows in our elbows, shoulders in our shoulders, head in our head, fitting inside of us like a hand fits inside of a glove. And as we are all together in this present moment, we're going to take a deep breath in, exhale, as we open our feet chakras and call in 15% earth energy of a color that resonates with you, moving as it pulls in to the bottoms of our feet, traveling up the side channels of our legs, as then our crown opens like the lens of a camera. And that 85% cosmic gold life force energy comes cascading down from the heavens, raining down on our higher self and our aura layer, and then focusing that energy down through our crown, marinating and saturating our brain, removing and resolving the worry, the doubt, and the fear in the prefrontal cortex, decalcifying that pineal gland, as well as waking up that pituitary. So all of the systems of our body are running at optimal health as it moves into that limbic system, moving out that primal energy and lighting up each vertebra on its way down our spine. And as we breathe with the rhythm of our body and know that our heartbeat is synced up with our breath, that earth energy and that cosmic divine energy mix in and begin to fill us up like water fills up a cup. Feel that energy as it moves through your body and all the cells and atoms, bringing wellness, prosperity, bringing that dense energy of connecting with collective consciousness to affect positive change in your life and the lives of your fellow man. As that energy moves through you and it gets to that heart chakra and your heart opens as that love then pours out of your heart into your aura layer, blanketing the inside and the outside of each layer, and then moving out into your environment, lighting up that toroidal field with that unconditional love and forgiveness as that locks in to the energy of Mother Earth. As that earth energy and that cosmic divine then begins to sprout out of your feet, hands, and crown chakras, filling up that aura layer, solidifying that love that is pouring out of the heart. As we then see that capstone and that pyramid light up above the toroidal field, and that white light comes down. It encompasses that beautiful gold light as it engulfs you and begins to move out, totally engulfing the entire earth and the universe. And this is the stuff of creation. So as our body is being brought into a state of health and wellness, moving that loving energy of prosperity and abundance throughout all our cells, connecting us with the positive energy of Christ consciousness and collective love energy, we're now going to bring our awareness to the center of our head as we move our energy. It's protected in this white light and this gold light up into the fifth dimension. And as Barbara Hand Clow said, we are already here. So here on this fifth dimension, we're to work with our masters to receive those emotions of joy and bliss, raising our frequency and vibration in this present moment to one of love and joy. So as you sit here with the masters, ask for those emotions, those high frequency emotions, to be embedded into your cells. So take a moment as I gently remind you that you are rooted and grounded into Mother Earth, with a grounding cord that is 6 inches in diameter and being cleaned off by those beautiful golden rose-shaped scrubbing bubbles. Your aura is 1.5 feet around you. Your higher self is above you. Your astral body is snapped in as you run that 15% earth energy and that 85% cosmic gold life force energy, cleaning out your body and all your systems, solidifying that beautiful nurturing energy of the reality of Mother Earth, combined with the magic of the ether, as those masters of the fifth dimension give you those emotions of joy and bliss and teach you how to cycle those negative energies out of you and harmonize the positive. As you take a deep breath in and exhale and move your awareness up into the sixth dimension, where there is geometric organization. Here is the music and the energy of the golden mean, that beautiful love of order. So allow for that emotion of order, for that beautiful energy of the golden mean to infiltrate your cells, reorganizing you, recalibrating you with the sound and the energy of light. So sit here and absorb all of that lovely energy of the golden mean and that beautiful light, restructuring your body and your cells to harmonize with the positive energy of the universe. As you take a deep breath in, you exhale and bring your awareness to that seventh dimension as you hear the beautiful music of the spheres. Sit here and hear the divine work with your cells and bringing in that multi-dimensional energy and music that you are, waking up that part of you that is divine consciousness, creative consciousness. So as you sit in the seventh dimension and listen for the music of the spheres, I want you to see yourself in that state of bliss, at the highest and the best of this physical life. See yourself there while listening to this music and having that golden mean guide your steps as you do so in a state of joy and bliss. And as you take a deep breath in and exhale, you move into the eighth dimension, where you are feeling the divine and communing with the angels. So allow these angels to take you in their bosom, see their wings engulf you and bring you in to that energy of the divine, restoring you to your true self, that purity of love, that 0 point energy of creation. As the music of the spheres begins to dance within you and create a geometric organization that harmonizes with that golden mean, having you engulfed in this beautiful energy of joy and bliss, with this permanent high vibration on this earth plane, magnetizing, manifesting all of your good. As you take a deep breath in and exhale, those angels move you up to that 9th dimension, where you have this understanding of time. And you're realizing time doesn't exist. It's nothingness. You have the power to create your life. So sit in this energy of creation. See yourself right now in the present moment, fully well, living in a state of optimal health. All of your atoms are pulsating with the energy of wellness, divine prosperity and financial solvency, as well as connection to that divine collective consciousness, moving in that positive energy of the ether. See this energy of the 9th dimension as a nebulous cloud of light that flickers throughout. And I want you to take your arms and take this cloudy energy and move it into your heart. This beautiful understanding of time, that it doesn't exist, and see yourself at that finish line of your goals. And while you simultaneously are bringing in this beautiful nebulous energy, the ninth dimension of understanding time, your body and that heart chakra that is moving out those beautiful hearts of love, now these hearts are now fuzzy and they're filled with that energy of divine manifestation and creativity. So as that part of you is moving in this energy from the ninth dimension, that other part of you, your body, is taking that in and moving that out into your environment, creating your highest and best, manifesting your dreams. So hold the vision right now of you being at the zenith of health, of wellness, of your goals, your career, your prosperity, as well as your connection, not only to divine and Mother Earth, but to your fellow man, as all of that multi-dimensional energy within you is being lit up, taking you to that frequency and vibration of bliss, joy, as you hear that music of the spheres lighting you up, locking you into Schumann's resonance. As you breathe with the rhythm of your body and know that you are divine. We're going to put 8 golden suns above your head as you continue to gather this beautiful energy of the ninth dimension in. Keep doing it as that beautiful hearts, those fuzzy hearts, pour out of your heart into your aura layer and into your environment. We're bringing these 8 golden suns down, one for your grounding cord as those golden rose-shaped scrubbing bubbles move down into the core of Mother Earth, bringing your grounding cord into the present moment. That's what that golden sun does. Bring down the other golden sun and let it extend and expand into that first chakra. Bring down that other golden sun and allow it to do the same in the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, lighting you up as this energy sprouts out of your feet, hands, and crown chakra, this multi-dimensional energy from all of those dimensions. As you take a deep breath in, and that ninth dimensional energy brings you back down to be with the angels as they solidify all of that energy that was in the ninth dimension. And they move you down into the 7th dimension as you begin to hear the music of the spheres again. And that energy solidifies and it harmonizes in with the angelic energy and the 9th dimensional energy as you take a deep breath in and you move down to that 6th dimension with all of that beautiful energy and that love of order. And that golden mean is just moving throughout all of your cells and moving you back down into that 5th dimension of joy and love. And all of these emotions have now been harmonized into your body, bringing you into a state of unity as you move your energy back into the center of your head. You take a deep breath in. Go ahead and close down those feet chakras and watch that earth energy recede back into Mother Earth. As you close your hands and your heart, you allow for that loving energy to settle in to your aura layer, that gold light as we close our crown. It begins to settle in. And as you see this beautiful, harmonizing, symphonic energy of you and the divine and Mother Earth and all the angels and the music of the spheres and all of this multi-dimensional energy of cosmic life force, creativity, empowerment, and love is just pulsating all throughout your aura layer, your body, your energy, moving out into your environment. As you close down that crown, you allow for that heavenly energy to go back, but you're still sitting in that white light. You take a deep breath in. You allow for that energy to settle. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Beautiful. Love that. Love that. I think we can almost make it into a Christmas carol, you know?
On the 12 days of Christmas, huh?
On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me love and joy in the fifth dimension and a partridge in a pear tree.
There you go. Merry Christmas.
But no, that was beautiful. That really was. That was a fantastic, fantastic feeling there. Just to put you on notice, again, as always, the newsletter goes out tomorrow. Anybody who wants to join our distribution list, John Drew at elevatedplanet.life, or go to elevatedplanet.life/contact page, and you can contact us there, along with any messages that you might want to share with us, any questions you might have. Whether you see this as truth or deluded nonsense, always interested to hear. We always have to be discerning in this day and age and make up our own mind. But yeah, I think that's the way to go there. And we are going to do our final one of the year next week, right? The 22nd?
Yes.
And then that's it through till the new year. So come and join us for the party.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you to our community for being here today. To Suzanne, Dennis, love having you here, mate.
Yeah.
Ronnie, your friend Ronnie.
Yes, Ronnie, thank you so much for joining us. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like what you hear. We really appreciate it.
Yes. On the YouTube version of this that goes out tomorrow, any liking, sharing, and subscribing is always exceptionally welcome. So thank you. And also thank you to Lindy and Laurie, who I hadn't mentioned previous to that, and those others on Susan's there as well. So yes, Susan,
Thank you.
Appreciate you all being here. See you next week. Take care. Loads of love.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.